And the main talking point right now, of course, is Everton and the points deduction that has put them in the relegation zone, at least for now. And although we obviously feel very opinionated on it ourselves, we thought it'd be better to get a better perspective on the club and their current plight anyway. So I'm joined by Mike, who has come in from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. Thanks for joining me today, Mike.
No problem at all. Glad to be here. I'm not really, but we'll get into the reasons why in a minute.
Yeah, maybe it would have been nicer to talk under different circumstances with a bit of an upturn in form, but we'll come to that. We will get to talk about how the season's going for you so far later on. First of all, mate, there are plenty of people that will listen to this or watch this that won't be exactly aware of what it is that Everton have done wrong, supposedly, and why this deduction has happened. Can you try and sum that up for us? What's the situation at Everton right now?
Well, effectively, the one charge obviously was breaching what some might term as financial fair play, what others might term as profits and sustainability rules and regulations of the Premier League. Either way, Everton have gone over this £105 million 3-year loss figure, which is the big thing. Everton initially said we haven't, and here's why we haven't. Everton have worked with the Premier League for the last 2.5 years to ensure that we didn't. We knew we were tight, and we said, listen, we are tight. Can you give us a bit of support? The Premier League agreed. We couldn't buy, a sheet of paper without putting it through the Premier League, first of all. So we tried to be transparent with them. It then came to pass that the Premier League then decided that they were going to refer us to this independent commission because they believed we had breached this £105 million figure. And that's why we went to this commission, and it was decided there. Everton then said we hold our hands up. We believe that there has been a breach, but we don't believe it's by £19.5 million, which is what the Premier League are being quoting. We believe it's around £7.9 million, and it seems to stem from Everton's perspective from interest payments on a new stadium at Bramley Moor. And also this transfer levy on young players as well. So Everton seems to feel that we've been massively hard done to. And the reason being as well, that the goalposts have moved as well, which we'll dive into to put more meat on the bone. But basically, for the layman to understand, and I include myself in that, is we've literally reached this £105 million loss figure over 3 years, and that's why we went to the commission.
Yeah, and that seems like such a small amount when you consider the kind of money that we're talking about within this current market. And I think neutrals and outsiders looking in on it look at a club that has had some pretty interesting transfer business over the last couple of years, it's safe to say. Quite high turnover in managers that will have ultimately resulted in a lot of payoffs. And then, of course, you mentioned the new stadium. Is this a case of just very poor money management from the owners, or do you think there's bigger things at play that aren't really supporting the club from the Premier League down, maybe?
Let's get it right. These rules were brought in to protect a certain number of clubs. That's the honest truth. That's always been the case. It means that sides who want to try and break through into that top six, you probably say top seven now. Newcastle might have joined the party, but that remains to be seen if that can be prolonged. But those six sides historically, it was to protect them, because before they were brought in, that's when City got the money. That's when Chelsea got the money. Then these rules and regulations came in. So it protects certain teams. So it's very difficult for sides below there who don't have the same kind of revenue, by the way. So you don't allow their owner to actually put money into the business. It's the only business in the world where the owner can't actually put money into the business effectively as much as they want to do. So that's obviously a big issue. So from a protection element, the protection is not there for people outside of, or clubs outside of certain teams. There's certainly been mismanagement, of course. Everyone will have seen we've been protesting against the board, against the owner for many, many, many months. Some beyond that. So it's not as if Everton fans have sat there thinking everything's rosy in the garden, because there's been a lot of mistakes made, whether it be unbelievably poor players that have been bought on the pitch, whether it be really poor business decisions made off the pitch, whether it be employing people who we felt weren't quite up to the job off the pitch as well, or also a major factor. Many, many things. But I think when Farhad Nashiri came in, which a lot of people like to go back to because it fits the narrative of this story, Everton splurged a lot of money on absolute garbage. We bought players that were just not good enough. I don't even just mean for Everton, I just mean in general. They weren't even Premier League players half the time, or they weren't players that were getting played in the right position. They were players who were coming from outside of the English game who needed time to adjust, and they were never going to get that time. So a lot of things have gone wrong. So it's a combination of Everton making mistakes, but also the Premier League have not protected Everton after us being so transparent. And in my opinion, all it will serve to do now is we'll put off other clubs who are in similar positions. I know Wolves are going through a similar thing now, but other clubs will not be as transparent with the Premier League, and they just start hiding things, because why bother being honest and saying, listen, try and work us and help us out, when all that happens is we get referred to a commission anyway and we lose 10 points.
Yeah, and I think that brings me on nicely to kind of looking at why this is happening to Everton in particular. We obviously know there's an ongoing investigation into Manchester City where we're talking about 115 plus breaches. There's also now talk of Chelsea under the Abramovich era and the dealings that they had, particularly for Willian and Eto'o. And we've always known that looked completely dodgy, didn't we? The infrastructure that Abramovich managed to put in place, yes, he supported that club, but the money that was being pumped into it, you can't imagine that they have not lost more than 19.5 million. So why Everton? Why are Everton being made the scapegoat in this situation? Do you think this is a fair punishment? Would you accept a 10-point deduction normally for this?
It's absolute farce, isn't it? Let's get it right. It's one breach is what it is. £19.5 million in Premier League terms over 3 years, not over 1 year, is a drop in the ocean. So we're talking just over, say, £6 million, £6.5 million, whatever it might be per season. What does that get you in this day and age? You know, probably Jared Brandthwaite's head. It probably gets you. That's probably.
What did Iwobi go to Fulham for?
Well, there we go. Yeah, but you know, it's one of those where it's certainly the punishment doesn't fit the crime, and the reason why we say it, I think people have looked at the fan reaction, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a minute, and think it's just Everton fans moaning again. It's not. The reason why is what we've seen. And if we don't even look at what's come out of the commission, let's look at what's happened in the last 3 years. 6 clubs tried to break away and join a Super League, which would have ruined English football as the whole pyramid as we know it. Now, what happened there is that was a major rule breach in the Premier League handbook. There's a major rule breach there. They got fined, was it £22 million between them? So what's that? Absolutely nothing. So 3-point-something million pound each. So what we're saying is, how can that kind of breach happen? And you say, yeah, lads, just over £3 million each. Don't do it again, though. Don't do it again. I'll tell you exactly why. I'll tell you exactly why. Because those 6 clubs are the Premier League's brand. They're the clubs that make the money. We can hold our hands up and say that is the case. They are the 6 clubs that are the cash cows of the Premier League. So when it comes to when they're selling the TV rights and things like that around the world, they'll be the 6 most supported clubs outside of this country. Let's make no mistake about it. So what they do is they're petrified of protecting the brand. So they give them a slap on the wrist. But for us, what they do is they say, you've had one breach, we're going to take 10 points off you. Well, hang on. That one breach has happened as far as we're concerned, because we're building a new stadium. Yeah. We were told and we were allowed to basically use the interest on stadium loan as which they then fall outside of the run of the club effectively. Yeah. The Premier League then get in touch with us late. So they agree with us. The Premier League said, yeah, you're correct, you're totally right. They got back in touch with Everton in December 2022 and moved the goalposts and said, you've got to put that against your losses. So straight away, they're moving the goalposts just as they're about to refer to a commission. So you can't tell us one thing and say we can use it and then tell us something else because it suits your agenda. So as far as we're concerned, we're being used as a scapegoat, not only because they won't touch certain other clubs and they're petrified, but they're also very, very scared of an independent regulator coming in, opening a massive, massive Pandora's box, and they do not want that. So Everton have been used as a pawn in the political game. It is as simple as that. So they are petrified of independent regulators. So all they're doing is saying, listen, we can do it all ourselves. Look what we've just done. Everton's lost 10 points there because they breached one rule. Look how hard line we are. They're absolutely, honestly, if they were chocolate, they'd eat themselves the Premier League, I tell you.
It's frustrating as well because that seems commonplace at the moment, this idea of moving the goalpost to suit revenue. I mean, you mentioned earlier that it seems like Newcastle are kind of entering into that top six conversation, and the Premier League aren't stupid. They're aware that when it comes to global marketing, Newcastle are going to be one of the new clubs that are being pushed. And we're having legislations even this week change that suit them and help them maneuver around financial fair play. The talk is now that Premier League clubs will be able to sign players even if their owners are the owners of the club they're signing from. And when you see things like that move forward, it does feel like there's more of an injustice towards a club like Everton, who are breaching it by such a fine margin, but they're showing other clubs how to do it in the same breath. It's a difficult thing. So I'm a Villa fan, and I feel like Everton, Villa, that sort of brand of club are the history of this league and help develop English football into what it is. And now your club's in jeopardy because, all right, at the moment, the 10-point deduction has happened. It's very likely you'll appeal and it may get reduced. And from a neutral point of view, this season's not the worst season for you to have a point deduction. There are comfortably 3 teams worse than you by more than 10 points, if we're honest. But still, then there's ongoing implications. There's talk now that the 3 relegated teams from last season are looking to take legal action. Who knows what that does to you financially? You're in the middle of a takeover. So what does all of this look like for Everton's future now that it has happened?
I mean, in terms of the takeover, 777 partners got a lot of bad press, and probably rightly so. You look at the stories that come out on a daily basis. I mean, apparently Genoa, who are one of their clubs, they're trying to renegotiate some kind of debt that they've got with the Italian government in regards to tax, 106 million euros. If they can't sort that out, then potentially the club's on the verge of going bust. So you have these kind of stories. They haven't been well received in other clubs, but then other clubs they have been. It's a bit strange. Other clubs have lapped them up and actually appreciate them. So it's a bit of a strange setup. But in terms of our takeover, it doesn't impact them taking over. They've already had a plan in place that if we were found guilty and we lost points, etc., then it will not impact it. But I think it may very well lower the price that they get the club for. But obviously it's still going through all the financial authorities and the Premier League as we speak. I think, sometime in December we should hear what the outcome of that is. But I think obviously in terms of other clubs looking for some kind of compensation, I think you go and try and prove that we've gained any kind of sport advantage and you wouldn't have gone down. Because Leeds would have gone down anyway. Because 3 teams get relegated, just because we would have lost points, we would have gone down instead of Leicester. You still would have gone down. Makes no difference. So, absolutely. But there's the years we're looking at. I think 4 out of the 2 clubs, 2 of the 4 clubs may have some kind of case. I think Burnley and Leicester may be the 2, but I think in any kind of course, you've got to prove that they mentioned a sport and advantage. And that's just a standard line used. So they basically
subjective.
Of course, how do you even prove that?
Yeah, you can't.
I'll say, to give some kind of example, last season, which wasn't one of the years which is yet being used against us, we signed Neil Mopey for nearly £14 million. There was no kind of sport advantage signing Neil Mopey, the best within the world. It just wasn't. So how do you even prove that that's the case? So, and what we're saying is, any kind of breach is to do with off the field stuff, and it's to do with mainly the stadium. And you've moved the goalposts, you've changed the rules when we thought it was okay, and we've submitted our accounts to you anyway. So how can it even stack up? And that's the big issue, So, but these when you've got independent panels which aren't independent, when you've got somebody who used to act on behalf of Leeds United, who's on the independent panel, when you've got someone who used to be the finance director at West Ham United during the Carlos Tevez and Mascherano affair. Yeah. Where's the independence there? There is none. Yeah. The Premier League appoint them. So it cannot be the Premier League who are conducting this commission, but they appoint the people. And now what they're saying is the same people are going to decide whether these clubs can have compensation and what it's going to be. How does that even make any kind of sense? The Premier League, there's no independence about what they're doing whatsoever. And this is what I mean. This is why they're so scared of other people coming in and saying, listen, we're going to oversee all this now. Because they know there's so many skeletons in the closets, probably of most clubs to be fair, but also the Premier League. Because the Newcastle situation, the government told the Premier League to authorise that because it looks great for Saudi and UK relations. Because it was, first of all, it was knocked back, and rightly so. So it's all these little things where people think that, football, it's not tainted. Of course, it's a massive money business. So, of course, there's corruption in there. You've seen enough documentaries about corruption around world football, within FIFA, within other, in the Italian leagues. If you think it doesn't happen in this country, then, get your head out of the sand, because, of course, it does. And you have to see Mike Dean saying about how he protected Anthony Taylor in that Chelsea Spurs match when he was on VAR. What is that? It just, the whole thing stinks. And as far as we're concerned, we are the fall guys for the Premier League in this game with the regulators. But the future for Everton, we're hoping, we're trying to look forward to Bramley more. What a spectacle! What a sight! We're probably around 12 months away from getting in there. But there's a lot of things for us to go through as a club before then, including the appeal will be lodged before Friday. The appeal's going in. Make no mistake about that.
Yeah, of course.
Again, the Premier League are going to appoint another independent panel. So nice of them to appoint some more independent people that they're all friends with. So that's going to happen. Obviously, the takeover, potential compensation claims. Listen, fan protests. Listen, Sunday's going to be live at Goodison Park. Sunday's going to be live. So whoever's watching this, make sure you turn your televisions on Sunday before 4:30, because it's going to be a spectacle and a half. Doesn't matter what you try and do. You want to turn the sound down. You want to play some kind of canned laughter, or go have some kind of technical difficulties. We'll get our message out. Don't you worry about that.